Good morning, guys, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Cedric, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And I tell you, this week has been topsy-turvy. I mean, we got coronavirus, we got sport events canceling, we got, flights being canceled, and so it is creating chaos in the minds of many people. But you know what, dads, it's your opportunity to be that steadying force in your family. So don't let the chaos and the hysteria get you down. You control the environment and the tone in your family. And I'm super excited because today I have a phenomenal guest. It's actually Saturday morning. We'll be posting this today on Monday when you guys hear it. So I have a phenomenal guest. His name is Emmanuel, meaning God with us. I love that name. But he's also known as Tank EdDucates. So welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning. Pleasure being on.
Oh, man, I'm just super excited because in some ways we are brothers from another mother because Absolutely. I adopted two kids from Haiti and you're actually from Haiti. So
yes. So our worlds finally collided, right?
I'm a big believer that God puts men in each other's paths. I don't think it's by accident that we've been put together. And the thing that's really fun about this podcast, about the internet, about, Facebook and groups like ESA, Elite Speaking Academy, which both you and I are part of, we can really bridge the gap.
Absolutely.
Of geography and space, and it's amazing what friendships can be developed over a short amount of time.
You're definitely correct on that. Yeah, meaning you're in Idaho, correct?
Yeah, and you're
in New Jersey, so the chances of us ever meeting is very slim. But with the power of the internet, beautiful relationships like this can happen. Now look at us on a Saturday morning talking about things like fatherhood. So this is amazing.
Yeah. So let's jump into fatherhood. I mean, you are actually, you and I had a conversation earlier in the week leading up to this, and you are not the typical, and I want to be respectful of this because there is a narrative in our society. And it is one of the reasons why I started this podcast was I kept hearing so many horrible stories of men, especially in the African-American communities and Hispanic communities, where fathers were absent. And I'm like, look, and I'm white as they come, right? And I had a phenomenal father. I mean, I had a great experience as a kid. And I'm like, I know there are other men that have had that experience in all cultures, in all faiths, all people. And I'm like, we need to find those men. So let's talk about your story because on the surface, it seems unique, but I don't think it's unique.
All right. Well, let me just quickly introduce myself just to your audience as well.
Sorry. I should have done a better job of that. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fine. My name is Emmanuel Chirilien. I'm 4 days away from being called Dr. Chirilien. So I'm trying to get used to that. I am a sociology and philosophy professor here in New Jersey. I teach all kind of courses ranging from comparative religion to minority issues, to minority groups, to principles of sociology. And then I'm also the executive director of Tank EdDucates, LLC, which is an education consulting company. Going to your question as far as the narrative, yes, in our community, especially African-American males, the statistics are saying 38% of us are being raised in two-parent households, compared to 72% for white families. So there is a huge issue going on.
Yeah.
Although there's a stigma around it that we shouldn't talk about it, but as a sociology professor, this is what I have to teach. It's there. It's 38%, and so there is something going on. The African American males are being raised without their fathers in the house, and one can blame drugs. One can also blame mass incarceration. One can blame just not seeing it so you don't repeat the cycle. So my thing is, I wanted to see what was happening. But my story is a little different. I came from a two-parent household, and I know the importance of it because I've seen it. My dad was a pastor. He was an entrepreneur, and he was a strict authoritarian dad. Right? So I tell, when I go speak to students, I tell them, I don't care how strict your dad was, he couldn't have been stricter than mine. All right?
I don't know. I think me and you could have a run for the money, man.
So to give you some context to that, we weren't allowed to watch TV. We weren't allowed to listen to music. We weren't allowed to have a lot of friends. He really wanted to socialize us in a manner that was God-centered, and he did not want any outside influence. And so, we were really shaped by this man. And it's until his unfortunate passing that I realized how important those things are, controlling who's your friends and controlling where you go and what you see and what you listen to, because that feeds your spirit. So I didn't get that then, but as I got older, I understood how important it is. So it is extremely important, because what's happening, if 38% are being raised without their dad there, right? Who's teaching us how to become men? Yeah. So in most cases, you're talking somewhere around 60%, women are teaching boys how to become men. And so I think that's kind of where I'm really trying to do a lot of this work of trying to teach how to teach boys to become men, productive men in society. So huge problem in our community right now.
Yeah, you talk about having a very strict dad. I mean, my dad was in the military, so I served 20 years under him. And I mean, we literally, he would have us stand at attention. You try to get a 4-year-old kid to stand at attention because he misbehaved. It's like, ah! But he was always, we had a very structured, very God-centered home. We always prayed together. We, read the scriptures every day together. And I think a lot of times people say that, well, man, you were so protected. You were so isolated. Correct. How does that prepare you for the real world, right?
Right.
And the thing that I've come to realize is that it gave me a solid foundation, a solid core that I was able to cling to when those questions in life came about, that I had to make a decision for myself.
Correct.
And sometimes I didn't make the best decision, right? And I had to go back to those foundational roots to recenter myself and get back on track.
Absolutely.
Did you find that same thing with you and your dad?
Yeah. So watching him navigate our family taught me a lot about manhood. And so he was a bona fide leader. So when things happened in life, we all looked to my dad to kind of figure out how to get us out. And watching that at such a young age, I understood that a father should be a person that is responsible, a leader, doesn't panic, and basically paves the way, right? And so when I became a father, I knew that those are the attributes that I wanted to emulate. I wanted to be a person that my kids can look up to. I would be someone that gives a sense of direction for my family. And I can't panic. You see your leader panicking, everyone panics. And so no matter what I go through, sometimes I need to just get away and meditate and pray, but I always show up. I always come up confident because I know I can't panic as a leader of the household. And I think that all comes from what I saw as a kid growing up. And like I said, too often with you not seeing that in the community, if you look, there is no sense of direction. And that's one of the problems. And so panic. Everyone's looking to everyone else. Everyone's looking to someone to make a change. No one's taking the lead. And so this ties into why I even created Tank EdDucates, is because I said I'm tired of looking at these problems, looking at these statistics, seeing what's going on. It's time for me to make a change and hope people jump on ship with me. And so not only am I leading in the household, watching a strong father also helped me lead in my personal life as well.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think that is one of the things that I have seen exploding, and this is my view, is there are men like you, men like Shon Hart, men like Eric Thomas, that are leading the charge and saying, look, we need to foster men that are men of integrity, of entrepreneurship, that are home-centered, family-centered, God-centered, and we're going to set the trail. So let's talk about what you're doing with Tank EdDucates, because, I mean, this is the first time that I've seen you not in a bow tie, all dressed to the nines. And
yeah, my wife said that. She said, "Don't you have a podcast?" And she said, "Where's your bow tie?" I said, "Look, he's gonna get Emmanuel on a Saturday morning." So yeah, listen. Gandhi said, "You have to become the change you want to see in the world." You know, and too often we have too many spectators. They're just watching. They know the statistics, and they're just like, "I hope someone fixes this."
Yeah.
Right. And so I alluded earlier that I'm a sociology professor, so I talk about these statistics every semester over and over. And I was just tired of talking about it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be the change that I want to see. And I knew that it would be very hard to do it under another organization. There's so much red tape, bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to have a freedom of thought, freedom of action. And so I had to create my own, which again stems from my dad. My dad was an entrepreneur. I saw the liberty and independence that he had running his own business. So that obviously influenced me to say that I would have to start my own as well. And so I created an organization that was actually an education focused organization, because I thought, I can't focus on the adults right now. You can't, I can't say you can't, but it's much harder to teach someone 40 and older new tricks. They're already established in their ways. They know how they want. So I said, if we're going to change a lot of the systemic things that I'm seeing in society, especially in the lower income African-American communities, I have to start with the kids. And so I said, I'm going to focus on the education thing. And one of the things about the way I do this is that I ask superintendents, I ask principals, I ask teachers, do you see a difference between the way African Americans conduct themselves at their churches and the way Europeans or white individuals conduct themselves at church? I'm like, yeah, there's a difference in culture. How about our barbershops? Yeah, the difference in culture. So why are we still educating all of our children the same? There seems to be one dominant culture way of learning, and everyone has to assimilate to that.
Yeah.
I think we should be teaching them the way they learn. And education should be customized. So depending on the person's background, you can kind of pull narratives from their background, know their music, know their culture, and then you infuse that into education. That'll get you credibility as an educator.
And right away. Get the kids excited.
Oh yeah. So when I come in, I'm playing Meek Mills. They know the lyrics to it. They're like, whoa, this guy knows our world.
Yeah.
Right. And so right away I get their attention, and then I can now teach. And so I figured that I wanted to put an emphasis on the curriculum, which would then change how we teach minority students, which eventually will then now attack all the statistics that we just talked about. Did I know this would go all other directions? No. Now I'm sitting in rooms with criminal justice reform, and I'm sitting in rooms with the governor task force. I was focused on education, but the way God works is that if you do what he tells you to do, he will open doors and lead you to ways that, and so now I have a bigger platform than I thought I would have, but I'm just going to keep following the steps, and wherever it leads me, I'll go.
Yeah. In fact, one of the, I was watching some of your video clips on your Facebook Tank EdDucates, and
Yes.
that you were sitting down, you're in your nice dress to the nines, and you're like, guys, what would have happened if Martin
Yeah.
Luther King and
Yeah.
Malcolm X came together and
Oh yeah.
actually worked together? The
Oh yeah.
power of each side of those gentlemen
Yeah.
was so influential. But
Oh
if
yeah.
we could have created a bridge between them, that
Mm-hmm.
what more could have been done? And I think that's one of the things that you're trying to do is create a bridge
Yeah.
in communities that will
Mm-hmm.
enable everybody to escalate. Because if we have any group that
Mm-hmm.
is struggling, the entire society struggles, right? You
Oh
can't
yeah. Oh
have
yeah.
one family unit of
Mm-hmm.
a group of people that are struggling. So we need to do that. And it's interesting because the last 3 weeks I've been here in Idaho going around, and I'm going to create, I'm going to create
I like the correction.
yeah, a weekly men's meetup where we're going to
Nice.
talk about fatherhood, and we're going to talk about being
Nice.
a man and what it talks about being a leader and with your wife in your family, or what it means to be a single dad and leading your family.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've gone around and I've been trying to find a location to host this event, and I've gone to coffee shops and I've gone to other places and I've talked to people, and it's interesting because the resounding message has been, wow, that's really needed, but we don't talk about it. Right? Because we think that, like here in Idaho, that everything's great. Everybody, yeah, we're lower on the economic rung compared to the United States as large, but
Correct.
for the most part, we're middle class, right? We do have, but there are a lot of hidden, not talked about things that are confronting men and families. And the lady that I talked to yesterday, she goes, oh man, she goes, I would love to have you host it here. She goes, I don't have a private enough facility. She goes, but I deal with domestic abuse and domestic violence.
Wow.
She goes, there's a lot of things for women and children, but there's nothing that I see for men.
Wow.
To help them become,
good point.
right. And here I am in supposedly, a better economic, society, or what's the word? The grouping.
Yes.
And no, we still need the same discussions.
Absolutely.
We have the same needs to make our family strong, and for fathers to truly be leaders in their family side by side with their wife.
Absolutely. It also goes back to how we're socialized as boys and girls. You have 2 to 5-year-olds. One's a boy, let's call him Tim, and the other one's a girl, we'll call her Susie. Susie falls down. We, as parents, cater to Susie. Tell me what happened. Did it hurt? Show me your boo-boo. We kiss. And little Timmy falls down, and we tell him, stand up, be a man, stop crying.
Yeah.
And so the support for Susie starts really early. And so Susie is able to now, as she gets older, to express herself, tell you when it hurts, but Timmy has a hard time doing that because we trained him since he was 5 to keep his pain internal. And so he internalizes his pain. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't. And so now as we get older, we don't want to talk about it, or we don't have the supports needed for us to talk about it when we do. So what you're doing and what you have in your mind to do is work that is much needed in society.
Well, you know what? It's like you said, it's just like, you feel a pull, you feel a calling to go and do some things. And, it just really hit me a year ago when I was listening to a podcast with 2 gentlemen, and they were just talking about how horrible their experience or lack of experience with their dad was. And I'm like, man, that was not my experience. There has to be other people that are leading the charge on that. And so I'm like, you know what? It's kind of like you. If someone else isn't doing it, maybe I just need to open my mouth.
Hey, and sometimes that's the spark, right? And then you have an avalanche going on. But yeah, I like I said, I can't relate to that not having a dad around, and because I've seen the benefits of it, I'm just trying to tell the world how critical this role is, and I think dads are getting a bad rap, man. People think the role is not as needed. You look at the court system, 90% of the chances they're going to give the kids to the mom without even knowing all the full details, because there's this stereotype that the men are not engaged, they're not going to be great parents. And so I just want to kind of like change this narrative back and really emphasize the critical role of fatherhood.
Yeah, no, I love that. So let's talk about you and your family. I mean, you
Yes.
had a really strong foundation with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
What have you adopted into
Mm-hmm.
your own life, but also what are you doing different?
Very good. Very good. Well, man, so I see a lot of ways that I am very similar to my dad, and I see a lot of ways that I'm not similar to my dad. So the way I would use an analogy, my dad, for me, was the Old Testament. He gave you rules, guidelines. You broke them, there were consequences. There was no grace and mercy. All right, so this is the law, and you followed with fear and reverence. And although it works, I don't know if it's engaging. And so I said, when I become a dad, I want to have this structure, but I want them to do it out of love, not necessarily fear and trembling. And so I consider my strategy more of the New Testament. So I do provide structure. I do have high standards. I do expect you to perform at a really high level. But if you don't meet my expectation, I do extend grace and mercy. And so I love you through it. And I let you know that even though you didn't meet it, you're still a winner. And we're going to get you there. And so I tend to be a little more flexible than he was. It's not, if it's written, that's it. But I do understand why you need to have that approach, because kids will only meet the standard that you put out. And if you put a low standard out there, they will meet the low standard. But if you put a high standard, they'll meet it. So I tell a quick story about that. Naturally, I'm a C student. I'm not the brightest guy in the classroom. But when my dad was around, I was a straight A student. So let me say that again. I'm a natural C student. But when he was around, he passed away when I was 16. So I was a junior in high school. I was an A student, gifted and talented student. Once he passed away, I slipped to a C and D student.
Wow.
I'm the same kid. But what happened was there was an expectation, and I had to meet it. When the expectation was removed, I naturally went down to who I thought I was, right?
Wow.
And so I've learned the power of expectation. So today, as a PhD student, I'm a 3.83 GPA. So I'm pretty much a straight A doctoral student. But I've learned that was in me from before. If I never saw that expectation, I would have probably thought my whole life I was a C student. So I said to say, kids need expectation. They need to know what you expect from them, and they will only perform. So I do still have the high expectation my dad laid out, but I'm a little more flexible in how we get there, would be my approach.
The power of that story, man, on so many levels, right? Because
yeah.
I think mine and your experience with our fathers is very, very similar. My dad was very Old Testament. This is a law. This is what you do, right?
Absolutely.
And I've tried to put in place some of that structure, that foundation.
Correct.
But I've also tried to be more fluid, more interactive, more engaging. And a lot of that, honestly, has been in part because of my wife. My wife is, look, you know what? Let's relax a bit. It doesn't have to be so rigid.
Yeah, my wife is the same way. Absolutely.
And so that balance has been really good.
Yeah.
But, as you talk about being a C student,
yeah,
I'm that guy. I'm naturally a C, B, maybe a low B on a good day, because I want to interact with people. And it gets back to, what you're saying about setting an expectation, because I think part of my challenge in the education environment was I straight up wasn't challenged. and I was bored with the way I was being taught.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so I'm really excited. I mean, I would love, in fact, I'm going to have to take a trip and watch how you teach and how you engage
Okay.
with students, because I think that is so critical. We need to get into the dirt with our kids. We need to
Oh,
get
yeah.
on the
Oh,
level,
yeah.
get
Oh,
into
yeah.
music or whatever. Because, I mean, I think to your point, we don't set an expectation high enough, and we don't engage with the kids and our own children in a way that brings out the best in them and
Absolutely.
expects the best in them.
Absolutely. I tell my students this all the time. The way we're educating our children today, it's almost like a factory where we're trying to produce the same product over and over and over again, and we're not considering the unique individual talents and gifts in front of us. So what I mean by that is to say, let's just say your son, God gave your son the gift of writing, but we're trying to get your son to be a teacher. And so we're producing a bunch of teachers, not realizing that this individual's gift was writing. And if we could put him on a writing track, he will really blossom.
Yeah.
But now he's disengaged with school, not because he could not learn, but the things that he was actually wired to do, we're not even touching, because we're just trying to give you guys all these core standard curriculums and the SATs and standardized testing. We're just trying to get this product out the door, and we're not individualizing the instruction based off the talent in the room. So what I'm trying to argue now is that we need to start realizing who we have in the classroom and then customize that experience. So therefore, if you're supposed to be a musician, writer, engineer, medical, the instruction should be geared towards that. We should customize it that way. And so by the time they get to college, they know what they want to be in life. We have supported them throughout this process. And I think when you're doing what you really are designed to do, no one will force you to study. No one will force you to go to school. You're going to beg to go to school. And so that's kind of, look, I worked at a company for 18 years. I am the happiest I've ever been right now. There's times as, CEO of my own company, there's times I'm working 2, 3 in the morning, but it doesn't feel like work.
No.
Because this is what I was born to do. So my thing is, if we can get our kids to have that enthusiasm about learning again, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I love that. So in kind of these final moments,
yes,
if you were stepping back, well, which you always are, but going to give some advice to fathers, what are some key things that you would recommend fathers do to really set an expectation of greatness for their kids and to bring out what's naturally in their gifts so that they can really thrive and be a blessing to everybody else?
All right. So I'm still learning this fatherhood game. So I'm not an expert, but I'll give what I think it should be. Too often we make our kids our dreams, meaning there are things that we wanted to do in life we couldn't achieve. And so we then project that onto our children and we push them, but we're really trying to pursue something that we couldn't do ourselves. So we're actually trying to live vicariously through them. I think that's a huge mistake. So what I'm learning to do is to find out who my child is. We have to develop relationships with our children and find out who they were designed to be. And then we parent them accordingly to that gift. And so I'll use my daughter as an example. Since she was about 3, she's been singing, and that's all she wants to do. She was into performing arts and theater her whole life. I'm an academic guy, so I'm trying to push Harvard and Princeton. Like, look, listen, I put you in the best schools. We can go to Princeton, but my wife would always tell me, that's not who she is. That's who you are. And so it took a while, but now we're putting her in summer camps that are strictly about performing arts, and we're looking at the best performing art colleges. We took her to voice and acting school. And so now our whole parenting is geared around performing arts because that's who we have, and sometimes we're trying to make our kids into who we want them to do and don't realize that God gave you this kid so you can just make them who they were supposed to be, the best version of that. And so that would be my biggest lesson to parents, is that we have to stop trying to create who we think they are and start allowing who they are to lead how we parent and teach them.
Boom, man, dude, wow, that is so profound. I mean, it really is. I think about my own daughter, and she is volleyball through and through, right? Now plays for UVU. And
wow.
We did, yeah. So it's actually her freshman year. My wife actually flew down to Salt Lake yesterday to watch her first scrimmage game, and they canceled it because of coronavirus.
Wow.
But since she was 8 years old, everything we've done has been to foster that love and passion and skill and natural gift in her. Our other son is, into basketball and athletics. And then I got my one son that's, he's more musical and more inclined. He's got a beautiful voice, and and so every time he comes home, he's playing the piano, and the kids all gather around and sing with him. And so I love that lesson, because you really need to foster the gift, the natural gifts that God gave those kids, because that is their gift to the world.
Absolutely.
So,
and if you think of it like that is their gift to the world, when we do what we just explained, we're actually robbing the world of a talent that God gave them. Yes. And so we're actually doing more destruction than parenting. Yeah. So it was a rude awakening for me, and it really changed my parenting style. And so I'm now like a coach. Michael Jordan's coach probably couldn't beat him one-on-one in basketball.
No.
But he guided, he gave parameters, he gave guidelines, structure, strategies, so Michael can perform at the highest level. Yeah. He probably could not outperform Mike, but he gave the, and I think that's what parenting should be. It's more of like a coaching, strategies, and we let the kids perform.
Oh, man. Dude, I have so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for, taking the time on this Saturday morning to spend with me and sharing.
Pleasure, mine, anytime.
Wisdom. So how do people follow and get engaged with you? I mean, we need to make sure that we're giving a shout out to the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I just started a TikTok yesterday. My kids said, you need TikTok. So it's Tank, Tank, EdDucates. But the EdDucates is the Doctor of Education. So it's ED with a capital D, UCATES. So it's not one D, it's two Ds in EdDucates. And I have a website, www.tankeducates.com. You can see the scope of my work there, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build. I speak at schools, I speak at government agencies. Anyone who's willing to listen, I'm willing to speak, because there's this term, die empty, and I just want to leave your listeners with that. My goal in life is to die empty. And what I mean by that is that when God calls me home, there's no more bullets in the chamber. All right. It's not like, oh, I should have said this. I could have done that. I did everything that you put in me. I laid it out there, man. And I don't have nothing left. I'm ready to come home. I'm empty. All right. And so too many people are dying with potential. When you go to one person said, the most potential you can ever find is at a cemetery. And people just died with it. All right. And so our goal, all of us, not just Tank EdDucates, but all of us, is to take everything out and leave it out here before we go home. So that I'll leave your listeners with that.
I love that. On that note, guys, Thank you so much for joining me every single week. Thank you, Emmanuel. I appreciate your time.
You got it, brother.
Guys, please make sure you go out, check him out on Facebook, Instagram, check out his website, get engaged. And you know what? Even if you're not in Jersey, you can have an impact in your own community. You can have an impact in your own family. So you know what? Don't let that potential stagnate. Don't let it decay, because you have it within you. Thank you so much for joining me every week. Please remember to like, subscribe, give us a review, and share it with other men so that we can expand the conversation. And also remember, I am part of the Speak Fire family. Make sure to check out the rest of the phenomenal guys on our team: Michael Gingras, Bobby Berg, Aisha Thomas, Neil Legend, and Sean Brassfield. Man, we're all trying to impact to bring out the best version of yourself. You guys have a great week, and we will check you same time, same bat channel right here on Father's Fire. See ya!